we are in Japan, in Inokashira Park, with Benjamin Fulford. This is Hanna Kazahari and Fabiola Tsugami-Shaba from Fabiola.
And it's March 11th, 2020.
Yes, it's March 11th, so it means we have 9th anniversary of Fukushima explosion and disaster in Fukushima plant. We already discussed that in our previous video. Now we're gonna go to the questions we received from our viewers and from our friends in Poland. We have specific questions for Benjamin Fulford. Fabi, please start.
Okay, I checked the data today. By today, it's 119,000 people worldwide who fell sick to something that is defined by WHO as something more important coming.
Did you know they have a system so that they can reach the whole country by speakerphones like this? Everywhere in Japan. If they want to have an emergency announcement.
Could it be the same announcement? Or
yeah, the whole country, the same announcement on microphones, so everyone can hear it, even if they don't have a...
This one is about no smoking while walking and when you're around.
And yeah, don't walk now watching a phone, you know. Like, enjoy the park, don't just look at your screen, you know?
Exactly. We wait and let...
Yeah, we have to wait.
Let them finish.
It won't be too long.
It will be often.
No, just this time of day they do it.
All right.
Okay.
So, as I said, so everyone is falling sick all over the world. Not everyone, but almost 20,000. So, what I want to ask you, do you think, is there a new old virus? Because as we know, coronavirus has been here since ever, right? It's responsible for 25% of common colds.
Yeah, it's very clear that this is a bioweapon, and it's not having the intended effect. They wanted it to kill millions of people, and fortunately, I shouldn't say fortunately in the sense that 4,000 people are dead, but fortunately in the sense that millions haven't died. It's not nearly as bad as they intended it. But Fort Detrick, the U.S. Bioweapons Research Laboratory, has been shut down. The scientists who created these viruses have been arrested, and a campaign is going. But nonetheless, like I say, they're going to still use this for a major propaganda exercise. But please don't let them scare you. It's fear porn. You're not, as long as you're healthy and eat properly and sleep and rest and everything, you're not going to catch anything, okay? What's the next question?
And somehow the countries with the highest occurrence of coronavirus are the states with the highest number of 5G base stations already in use. Is it just a coincidence, or are there any correlations? Especially like the ship, Diamond Princess, it was using 5G
from
technology.
The satellite, it was bombarded.
Does it link?
26,000 scientists have signed a petition saying that 5G is dangerous. It's very similar wavelength to human thought, and they used it in South Africa in experiments to manipulate mobs, either to calm them down or to get them excited. I had this from a South African secret police whistleblower. And I've heard now from the CIA sent some people in from Thailand to Wuhan to check out the situation. And they say that about 3 million people were killed, and it was caused not by a virus, but by a satellite overwhelming their 5G network, which they just installed, and using it to emit dangerous electromagnetic radiation, and that's what caused the damage there. So it was a serious attack on China, and the people responsible will be brought to justice.
So is there 5G and virus together, or is there only 5G?
Well, they're using the virus as a cover for the 5G in most cases.
Right.
Certainly in Wuhan. So here in Japan, they were going to try to have 5G all over the country by the end of March.
Right.
And I've been fighting against the Son Masayoshi and Abe cabinet to make sure that doesn't happen. I think we're going to stop it in Japan.
Tell us if we can help somehow. Okay, my next question is about China.
Mhm.
But here is good news. In China, 75% of the infected people have recovered already. So it's under control. China is fine, getting better day by day. But what I would like to say, we got information from our contact in China about how they cure people. So basically, okay, they use Chinese herbs. They use the blood of the people who have recovered. But most of all, what they use drugs for AIDS. And somehow, this COVID pneumonia and AIDS pneumonia look pretty same.
Well, what they've done is, you see, they've created bioweapons before, like Ebola is a bioweapon, a lot of these new types of bird influenza are bioweapons, but they also create antidoses for themselves, right? So that they don't catch their own pandemic. And that's what they've been using. They're also using Ebola drugs for this new bioweapon. And, like I say, it's not going to be nearly as bad as they're trying to make it out to be. It's mostly about fear. And as I said before, it's almost entirely old people with pre-existing conditions. And even more, I hate to say this, but it's mostly old Asian people, especially men, that are getting it because of the way it was designed.
Okay, so my question is, it comes from Poland, from my friends. We know that coronavirus is to distract us, but can you elaborate what it is to distract us from? What is going on behind the scenes?
Well, they have a NATO military exercise going on in Europe, for example, where 40,000 U.S. troops have been deployed. And I have been told that they're being used to arrest Kabbalists in Europe, in Switzerland, all over Europe. They're arresting mainly bankers as part of a military move against the Satan-worshipping cult that took over the central banking system. So it's being used as a cover for a military campaign against Satan worshippers located at the top of some corporate power structure.
Okay, thank you.
And they're not wearing masks, all the soldiers who arrived.
Yeah.
They don't worry about
there's no virus anymore.
For soldiers, no problem.
Yeah, but there's a good news is that a lot less people are dying than normal of the flu because everybody's washing their hands as a precaution. So, probably overall there's less deaths than in an average year thanks to the incredible fear they generated. So that's partly a good thing.
Yeah. I would like to say something because we in our videos got a little bit criticized for saying that like only 4,000 people died or only the elderly. So let me say this. We also talk about the accuracy of all those tests, and I would like to say we don't really know why these people even died. It may have nothing to do with this so-called COVID-19.
Well, like I say, I mean, every year hundreds and hundreds of thousands or millions of people die of pneumonia, and it's mostly old people who are already close to, going to the other side who get it. And so they're taking a lot of these deaths and labeling them.
Exactly.
Like I say, we shouldn't have any deaths at all on this planet. I believe that death is a curable condition for most people, and that is the sort of thing we want. We don't want to have any deaths at any cause. Not just this new virus, but cancer, heart disease, anything. We don't want people to die anymore. We believe old age is a treatable medical condition with current levels of medical science.
And maybe let me rephrase this again. Maybe it's a similar question and you already answered in the previous video probably, but just to elaborate more on it. So is this, like to summarize, is this good news or bad news that there's so much noise, there's so much fuss going around? Does it mean that they are winning the globalists or they're losing?
I think a faction of globalists is beating another faction of globalists. Okay, there's a group that wants a loose world republic with a lot more freedom than we have now, and a group that wants a highly centralized fascist control run by members of a certain ethnic group. And they're not the Jews, by the way. They're not Jewish, these people, but they pretend to be. I call them the Kazahari mafia, but it's nothing to do with the modern nation state of Kazakhstan either. I want that clear. But, it is an ethnic mafia, and they are very powerful.
Yeah, we wanted to ask about Poland because we have now this Defender 2020 NATO program. Our sources say for 20,000 US military troops. You said 40,000.
All over Europe, so half of them in
Not
Poland.
just Poland, yeah.
Okay, we have in Poland. Are they equipped with nuclear weapons? How does that link to coronavirus?
Well, okay, look, they don't have to be equipped with nuclear weapons. They can, they can be sent anywhere on Earth with missiles and stuff. So, what it is, it's about carrying out a series of arrests. I've heard there are going to be a lot of people arrested in Germany, in Switzerland, all over Europe. So it's a cover for a large military campaign aimed at a group of mafia who have been proven to be trying to kill 90% of the world's population. So we're removing a dangerous cancer from the top of the power system in the West. That's what's happening.
Okay, and one more question from Alternative News, which published our video last year, is there is reported almost like 3,000 CEOs of global corporations like Disney,
yeah.
like others, quitting, resigning. What does that mean? Is it a good news?
Yeah, it is a good news. You see, it's because the owners of the United States of America Corporation, which was established in 1871 and is not to be mistaken for the Republic of the United States of America that was established in 1776. The owners of this corporation went bankrupt on February 16th. And that's been the trigger for all these things. And it was the owners of the corporation, in a desperate move to keep in power, who were behind the attacks on Wuhan and a lot of other nasty incidents. But they are losing. We are rounding them up. Their ability to terrorize us is going to end soon. Okay. And yeah, that's why all these CEOs are quitting.
Then how to tell fiction news from truth news nowadays?
Well, number one, use your own eyes and trust what you see with them in the real world first and foremost.
Okay.
Otherwise, try to triangulate. Use different news sources, and the part they all agree upon is most likely to be the part that's true. And always check facts, and keep an open mind, but check facts. That's my advice.
Do you trust your sources, the sources which provide you with the information? First question was, do you trust your sources? And second was related to the previous, like how can you tell which is true, which is not?
Well, they have, many of my sources have tried many times to use me to spread disinformation, and they have succeeded sometimes. When I find out, I always issue a correction and an apology, but I have sources where I've had a long relationship, like 10 years or more, and we've built up trust. And so people who have been consistently reliable, I trust more than people I've never heard suddenly coming up to me with stuff. But I always try to double check, and a lot of people, even if they're lying, I still quote them because they represent powerful forces. So, for example, during the Second Iraq War, you had U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell saying that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. It was a lie, but Secretary of State Colin Powell was saying it, and the fact that he was saying it is important.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time in my reporting, you'll find contradictions, and that's because, for example, in this week's report, the Gnostic Illuminati told me that they killed Pope Francis, and he was replaced with a clone, or a hologram. And I asked the P3 Freemasons who were in Italy and who control the Pope, and they said no, he had a mild sickness and he's recovered. So I put both statements beside each other. They contradict each other because the different sources are saying different things, and then the readers have to think for themselves, because that's as far as I can go. But when it's clear, I make it clear. When there's conflicting information, I put both there because that's my job.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions?
Well, the financial reset, should we prepare for something? Do we need any
Well, okay.
water, food supplies, and
The important thing is even they're saying they're using this opportunity to sell gold, but if you remember the story of King Midas, you can't eat gold. So the most important thing is to make sure you have a stable food supply, clean water, and that's the first thing. Okay, life is the most important. Then focus on whatever's real. The important thing is this: suppose the stock market went to zero, and the dollar went to zero. Okay, would any houses disappear? Would any people disappear? Would any factories disappear? Would any minerals disappear? You know what I mean? Everything would still be there. Reality would stay.
Yeah.
What would change is the psychological mechanism we use to deal with it. So we are trying to replace a system that they've used to control us with money created from nothing and put in bank computers with one that's actually connected to the real world. And that will be of great benefit for the 99% of the population who suffered under the current system. For example, the debt write-off will be one of the first things we do. It's a one-off thing, though. But the financial reset will make everybody much richer and happier when it's over. But for some people, there's going to be a withdrawal symptoms. So, for example, you might not be able to get as many, cheap Chinese items in a Walmart, and because
we don't need them.
You can't
that many.
Yeah, but important stuff will be okay.
Okay. And how many weeks would you prepare for?
Well, I think that there will be contingency plans will be made to make sure everybody gets food, water, essentials. Nobody's gonna starve when this happens. That's for sure. So I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't go out and buy stuff. Everything should be okay. It might become harder to buy an iPhone or something like this for a while, but it's not going to affect people's livelihoods.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.